The Atlantic War was started in 1942 after the US joined the war. Now the invasion into Europe had a good chance of being into France, so the Germans needed sites inland away from the coast to stock fuel, ordnance, food and clothing. There were several dumps across the north of France, but the biggest one was in the forest of Andaines between Domfront and Alençon. In the 19th century, the forest was continuous from Domfront to Alençon. Today, you can drive a good way from Domfront to Alençon in the forest, but it's a lot smaller than it used to be. But it provided very good cover. We were in the Chateu forest and the Bois de l'Evêque in the video on the resistance. The Andaines Forest had several advantages for a stockage place. Being 50 miles inland, it was out the range of ships, and not being too far from the coast made it easy to supply the troops. There was a road network going east-west and toward the coast and towards Paris. There was also a railway line. The railway line went through Bagnoles de l'Orne, up to Bruges and then Argenton, and also went south to Couterne and then to Alençon and Le Mans. The work was carried out in 1943 by French SDO workers and forced labour from North Africa. There was a main road going from Domfront to Alençon along a ridge, and the stockage places were on minor roads coming off the main road. I moved away from a house because there was a dog barking. Now there's a chainsaw going. We're in the forest. Now the stockage areas were named. Around the étoile, which is in the middle of the forest, just up there, it was called Berthe. This had 83% of the fuel supplies for Normandy. And then around Bagnoles de l'Orne, that was for ammunition, that was called Marthe. Marthe had 28% of the ammunition in Normandy. In both areas there were parking places for trucks and other vehicles. Now Victor, the food rations depot, that had 36% of the food stores in Normandy. There were two forms of fuel storage. These long, narrow stores. Then there were smaller, rectangular ones. Now this could be 100 foot long. Now this form of storage, if assuming it would have a wooden floor, would facilitate the rolling of 45-gallon barrels. Of course it would go right up to the road at the time. They've changed it a bit now, put a ditch there. Along this road near the fuel dump storage, there were these parking places. You can see further down there's some shadowy areas where there was another one or two, and that way as well. There were three along there. Now the other type of fuel storage were these more rectangular ones. They were a little way off the road. So there's one entrance here, and it's about 10 yards long, about 5 yards wide. Now these would be for jerry cans. Now, a lot of you probably know this, but jerry can was invented by the Germans in the First World War. The Tommies called the Germans jerrys. They invented this recipient for fuel, which was a can, so it was a jerry can. Now there's several of these along here, and there was others the other side of the road over there. This one is about 100 yards from the other one. Same shape, There's one exit. See, about 3 foot deep. Would have a wooden floor, and there'd be covering over the top in canvas or wood. Well, that's disappeared. They've come the other side of the road, and I'm surprised these are still intact, because these trees are less than 75 years old, but they just plant them, and there's 2 been planted inside the stockage area. See what the entrance here? It's the same shape as the others. 2 trees been planted. They look about 20 years old. This is the main road that comes through the middle of the forest from Domfront to the Fer de Massy. And then down these side roads is where the stockage places were. Now, the 13th and 14th of June, the area around L'Étoile was bombed, and this is the best place for seeing bomb craters apart from Point d'Arc. All the other bomb craters in Normandy have disappeared, except these. It was bombed again on the 24th of June. Each stockage area had its parking places camouflaged for trucks. Not too well distinguished here. These parking plots are for the Berthe fuel depot. That one's a bit better defined. Just near the Manoir du Lys Hotel Restaurant near Bagnoles, on this north-facing slope, there was some food ration store dug into the slope. So they're quite deep. The end of that is 15 foot high. This had 36% of the rations in Normandy. Just near Victor, this building was built during the war by the Germans, probably offices. The ammunition dumps in Marta area are east of Bagnoles. Now, they were difficult to find, but they're well camouflaged. I knew where they were thanks to a report that's listed in the description, but it took me some time to find them. I thought there was one here. It's elsewhere. See how well camouflaged they are. Ah, it's here. Now, these are some way off the road, a bit further than the fuel dumps, and they're a lot deeper. See the rectangle, and there'd be a drainage ditch going up there into the forest. Of course, it's blocked up, so it's flooded. Now, these are a lot deeper than the fuel dumps. That would protect the next ammunition dump from an explosion if one happened. That's why they're so deep. Now the road is over that way. Now there's some dumps the other side of the road, and they're even further away from the road. Same shape but bigger. And there's another one here. See, there's trees growing in it now. And see these, there's two entrances. See one here, and there's one here leading to the road. Then there would have been a drainage ditch going off down the slope. So see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 meters long. We're going to see the other side of the road. This is the drainage ditch that came off the ammunition dump to the south of the road. We're going to see. These are still the smaller type, quite near the road. Longer ones are further inland, further in the forest, I should say. Let's find one. Now these are the longer ammunition dumps. See, the axe is perpendicular to the road. These are quite deep in the forest. I've been walking around in circles for a bit, trying to find it. Because the road's over there and we can't see it. You can hear the car. These just have one entrance, the others had two on the long side. This has one entrance on the short side. See, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 meters long. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meters wide. You can see how deep they are. This must be 8 foot deep, because that would protect other dumps from an explosion if one happened. Now, from shell casings found, these stocked 37 millimeter, 50 millimeter, 75, 88 millimeter, 105. And near the ammunition dumps is this crater, which wasn't from bombing, but this is where they would dispose of unwanted ordnance or damaged ordnance. It's full of water and it's frozen over because it's -1 in January 2020. Of course, the battle normally took place in the summer, so these trees would have been full of leaves. Now, these parking places are near the Martyr ammunition dumps. Now, these are diagonal to the road. That would, because this road isn't very wide, it would make it easier to get onto the road and get off it. Whereas the ones near the Berthe, on the main road from Bagnoles to Donfront, they were perpendicular to the road because the road was wider. See, there's another 3 down there. Just over there is the town of Bagnoles-de-Lon, and along this road there are several parking places. Now, this one's been dug out so you can see it clearly. So you could have a truck in here and it comes perpendicularly onto the road here, which is just a gravel track now. There's even a panel here explaining what these things are. There's a little circuit to do just near Bagnoles. Up here there's another one, but this one hasn't been dug out, so it's more camouflaged. There's a parking place here, but it's not very well defined. Just that one's been dug out so you can see it. There's another one up there, and that's the one that's been dug out there. And there's another two lower down. This is all part of Chateu, which was the ammunition depot just east of Bagnoles. The railway station is at the end of the track there. The line went north to Briouze, and then you go to Ardennes, Paris. Also went south to Couterne, and then you could get to Alençon or Le Mans. So it's well placed with this railway line here. Just behind the parking place, which is there, there's remains of this zigzag trench here. You can just see it with a shadow. It goes along there. Now these were for shelter from bombing rather than defence positions. There was never any fighting in these, so the men could jump in them if there was a bombing raid. And that might well be a foxhole. See, the trench system comes along here. There's a parking place there. There's another one there. And the other one over there that's been dug out. And then there's more up, further up the lane. Robert Davidson joined the 401 Squadron of the Royal Canadian Air Force at Tangmere on the 5th of June, just before D-Day. Now, as he just joined the squadron, he didn't take part in D-Day. But on the 7th, they were flying into Normandy and landing. They were landing at the future advanced landing ground at Penisnsula, just behind Juno Beach. He made a few unarmed reconnaissance flights. Then on the 28th of June, he was flying over Couterne, and they were set upon by 12 Focke-Wulfs 109s. This was his first dogfight, and he was shot down. Another plane was shot down as well. Now he was coming down over here, and he would have hit the Traverse Sound, which is just there. But the Mr. Voulou, who lived there, he saw that Davidson made the plane change course, so it avoided the house and crashed over there. And the engine landed just over here. It was the engine of his Spitfire. Now Davidson, who was just 21, was buried by some civilians in the churchyard clandestinely. Now this was a dangerous operation because if they'd been caught by the Germans, they would have been in trouble. But it was a blow to the Germans because they found the airplane and no pilot, so they didn't know whether it had escaped or not. 2 Spitfires were lost in that action, and 3 Focke-Wulfs were shot down. Now one of the people who buried him was Mademoiselle Leroux, and she sold us our house 30 years ago. At the time she was just a young girl. In 1998 they put this stele up to Davidson. This is the site that his engine landed. On the 14th of August, Thomas MOntag set off from ALG airfield near La Combe, between La Combe and Pointe du Hoc. He was flying over the forest in support of the Allied troops advancing. He strafed a convoy on this road. He tried to pull out the dive and hit a tree, or perhaps he was hit by anti-aircraft fire. Anyway, he crashed and he was killed. After the war, he was buried in the American cemetery at St. James, which is near Mont Michel. And this stele was put up to him. On the 13th of August, shells were flying over Couterne from the south as the American army was approaching. The Frotte family in the Chateu of Couterne spent the night in the cellar. Early in the morning, they heard a vehicle coming up the driveway. They looked out the window of the cellar, which was at ground level. They saw this strange vehicle with a wheel in each corner. It was the first jeep they'd seen. It was actually the 1st Division arriving. Colonel Wright was in the jeep. He asked Mr. de Frotte if they could set up camp in the grounds. He said sure, but the well won't supply enough water for the men. The Colonel Wright said that's okay, they use the water from the lake and we put sterilising tablets in it. And the soldiers are already filling up reservoirs with water. Bagnoles was liberated on the 14th of August. It was taken without any fighting, but it had been shelled, especially the railway line, and that was the end of the railway line to Couterne. Couterne was liberated on the 14th of August 1944, and the day after they celebrated the liberation around Davidson's grave, which was here. And then later on, this Commonwealth War Graves Commission stone was put up